My name is Megan, and I am 36, and I need to end my emotional affair.
What do you mean by emotional affair?
I have developed a close relationship with a friend that initially started as a working relationship, so professional relationship,
Uh-huh.
and then over time we just became closer and closer, and have definitely bordered past the friendship level, and he is in a long-term committed relationship.
Okay. You're in your relationship status is
I am single.
okay. Okay. So this started you work with this person? Oh, you
I
did?
worked with him in a certain capacity. We
Gotcha.
no longer work together professionally.
Gotcha. Does that have anything to do with the relationship or is that just
Nope,
okay.
it was a transactional
Gotcha.
thing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
the work part of it was done, and then we still maintained a friendship.
Okay. And I guess what part are you struggling with?
The actual letting go of the situation. All of my friends or people that I talk to about this situation are like, he's treating you very disrespectfully. He's not being respectful to his relationship. Just end it, walk away. But I still want to have him in my life in some type of capacity. And I've tried to do that. But different things keep happening, different situations keep happening where, people get upset or a situation goes a little too far, and, it just it's not serving me anymore, but I can't seem to be like, bye, I'm never going to speak to you again
Do
kind
you
of
have
thing.
feelings for this individual?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
100%.
All right. Well, that's the why.
Yeah, well, and I know that he has feelings for me as well, but obviously he is in a relationship, so
Is he
he
married?
no.
He just has a girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, still like,
And I've said that to him too. I'm like, if you wanted to, you would,
yeah, I
and
mean,
he hasn't, so he doesn't want to, and I have come to terms with that to an extent, but I still want him in my life as my friend, but our
I mean,
relationship is
no,
not
but you don't.
platonic.
Yeah, that's the thing, you don't, right? And so he's not your friend, you know. Natalie, my wife, is my best friend, obviously, of course, right? But like that is
Hmm.
not the core of our relationship, right? It's disingenuous
Hmm.
for ourselves to pretend that we can be just friends with people that we have elevated feelings for that go beyond a friendship, right? I understand listen, you like this person. There are moments it sounds like he's added value to your life, in the short term,
Yeah.
but obviously given how he's handling this, you've recognized that it's causing you more frustration, disappointment. It's questioning your own, I'm guessing, integrity and character as you kind of entertain certain things that he's doing,
Yeah.
knowing that like it's affecting your conscience. But that being said, like, yeah, I get the desire. I guess the point is you have to recognize that you walking away from this situation that isn't right or healthy for you big picture wise, that you're going to be sad about it, that you will miss aspects of the relationship you have with him, just like any breakup,
Mm.
to a certain extent,
Yeah.
you know?
And it definitely feels like a breakup to
Yeah.
me
Yeah. And I think that
because of the emotional aspect of it. Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's okay for you to acknowledge and mourn to a certain degree because like that's better off than trying to like do these mental gymnastics in your head about like, well, I really like him. And if I could just figure out a way to have him in my life, in a way that doesn't like make me question, if I'm doing the right thing or not, and doesn't make me question whether he's doing the right thing or not. And then if somehow we can magically figure out how to do that, then we can be friends. And it's just not possible, and like
Yeah, I
you're,
mean that's what I've been trying to do
yeah,
is take sort of a step back and be like, okay, we're not going to speak every day as we have. I'm not going to see you multiple times a week. I'm going to try and make this more of a friendship that's like we talk on a regular cadence, and I've
well, let,
been
let,
trying to like
let me ask you
get
this.
through that, but it's
I hear you
yeah.
on that, but let me ask you this. How would it make you feel if you knew at the end of the day, like he was using you to fill in the gaps he's missing in his relationship.
Oh, I 100% think that he is doing that.
Okay.
And it doesn't make me feel great. And the thing is too, is that he knows how I feel about him.
Uh-huh.
And I think he's taking advantage of the situation, because who wouldn't want somebody in their life that's, you know, building them up and providing them emotional support, and, you know, somebody to spend time with when their significant other is out of town or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I'm providing a lot to him, and me saying that I'm hurting from this situation, but then not receiving any type of like support back to be like, I understand, you know, why you're hurting and where you're coming from. Let me put some boundaries in place and help you disengage from that. He doesn't do any of that. And it just feels very disrespectful to me. And so it's like, for me to try and walk away, I want some type of like acknowledgement from him to be like, to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like that he's going to be missing something. Like right now, it feels like he's like, okay, you're making this decision
And
to,
why would that,
you know, take a step back from me.
how would that actually make you feel better? So if what I'm hearing from you is
to
like,
confirm, yeah.
If I'm hearing you right, you want to take a step back, put distance in this relationship, and you want to hear him acknowledge that it'll be difficult and sad for him to do.
Mm-hmm. Because to me, that would be
okay. But let's assume, okay, like you reach out to him and you're like, hey, we need to cut ties. I can't do this. And you get exactly the words that you want to hear from him. And then after he says the words that you want to hear, you never hear from him again. How will that make you feel better?
That this time, our friendship, our, you know, relationship meant something to him.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I find that words in these situations are fairly meaningless and actions go a long way. And if I'm willing to bet that if this were true and he didn't reach out again, those meanings of those words would fade away quickly. And then his ease of letting you go would hurt.
Yeah. Well, that too, that's what I'm afraid of, is that, yeah, he'll just be like, okay, like,
exactly.
bye, see you later. Because he still has everything, and I'm left, you know, still alone. And so it's like, yeah, I think maybe it is more my ego.
Well,
being you're like,
I don't know anything about your circle of influence, but I'm willing to guess you're not alone. And you may at times feel lonely, especially when it comes to maybe male companionship. But I think it's very important that we, especially in these times, that we are mindful of our rhetoric to ourselves of being alone versus, you know what, sometimes I feel a little lonely, you know?
Yeah.
But you're not alone. You've already mentioned you have friends, you know, and things like that. But I would argue that at times he makes you feel even lonelier than you are, especially when he is disconnecting from you and spending quality time with his actual partner, you know? I just think, I really don't think him saying anything is going to really do it. It's going to be short-term gratification. Your ego is telling you you need to hear this acknowledgement, but in my experience, it's really not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
If this person is serious about how he really feels about you, if this person really is interested in prioritizing you, then you walking away, setting and then enforcing that boundary of, hey, I'm not going to sit there and pretend that we can be platonic friends. I feel like we have a connection worth exploring. I do not want to explore it while you're in a committed relationship. If you feel the same way about me, let me know, but you need to be single to do that. And if not, then I can't have you in my life. And that it will be the only way you will actually find out about how he really feels about you and his willingness to prioritize you.
I agree. And the thing is that I have, and we have tried that a couple of times.
Well, I love to say, when it comes to boundaries, I like to invoke Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try. You don't try to enforce a boundary, you know, you just do it. Enforcing a boundary is not a mutual effort. You know, you can't say we tried. That's something you do. And he either respects your boundary or he doesn't respect your boundary. And then he has boundaries, I'm sure, whatever those are, what they may or may not make sense to you. or anyone else, but he has his, and then you can choose to respect or not respect his boundaries. Boundaries are not something you do mutually, unless maybe from two parents to a child type of thing. That's the only time the boundaries are mutual, type of thing. But in a couple, you each have your own
Right.
individual boundary, and it's up to you, the individual, to enforce it.
I don't know how to communicate that to him besides being like, don't speak to me again, because it just feels so harsh to me because of the depth of our relationship. Just being like, I'm never going to speak to you again just seems extremely harsh to me and not like, doesn't give any meaning to the relationship that we had.
Why does this relationship need to have meaning if you're not going to ultimately get what you want from it?
If it doesn't have meaning, then what's the point?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you mean by meaning? I guess, I guess what is like the point? I don't know what the point of this relationship is if he chooses to stay in his relationship. But
Hmm.
I would hope that the point for you would be you would learn something from it, and that learning from it might be, to be careful about, developing a friendship with a man in a committed relationship, knowing that quite honestly, especially in adult life, most men aren't developing friendships while they're in relationships unless they're looking for something that they're not getting out of the relationship. But full well through this experience, them doing that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to leave that relationship. It might mean that you needed to learn this lesson. I mean, honestly, that's all our experiences in life are. Meaning, like, like we always want this grand meaning. The only time it means something if you're willing to learn something. That's about it. You know.
Hmm.
Otherwise, and some things happen just because life's unfair. You know. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to say two things that I think that he's opened me up to a lot of things about myself. And so I do
Great.
thank him for, teaching me those
That's
things.
awesome.
So I do appreciate that. And I do
Yeah.
acknowledge that. But I will say on the flip side too, kind of what you were saying is that I seem to get myself in these types of situations a lot, meaning having relationships with men that are either in relationships or married or whatever you have it. But that seems
That's
to be my kind of cycle and I don't like it. I would never want to be with somebody that cheats on me. So why am I willing to be the person that's, engaging in that activity?
yeah.
I ultimately want a partner and I want somebody to live my life with, but I seem to be gravitating towards these unavailable men.
Yeah. I mean, why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Well, if you can notice a
Maybe
pattern,
because
there's
it
definitely
makes me
probably a
feel
reason.
more desirable. Yeah.
It could be that.
It's exciting.
Could be that. And maybe it's just like, maybe it's not as even like a nefarious in the sense that maybe part of it is like, maybe it's easier for you to be yourself around people that, like, when you first meet them, you kind of told yourself, like, this is not a dating partner. And so you're like, this is just a guy who's off the market. So I just can be friendly. And then you're disarming and he's disarming. And then you're maybe good at building rapport. And maybe these connections are happening in, I guess, in good faith, so to speak. But partly is you're able to be yourself and you're not like worried about, are they going to like you or not and things like that. And then
Yeah.
you just kind of find yourself developing these connections with these men, and it's a safe space. And then yeah, maybe there's a part of it in your subconscious who likes the attention and things like that. It might be a combination of things, but if you can notice a
Hmm.
pattern, then again, exceptions to every rule. But I think when it comes to straight men, certainly above the age of 25, if they're in a committed relationship, they're not making women friends for the sake of needing more friends. You are feeling some kind of need and void.
Hmm. And the thing is that what, yeah, like we said earlier, I acknowledge that I'm doing that, but I also feel like I am getting some from him,
Oh,
fulfillment from him, but less and less as more time goes on and more of these issues, arise between us. So that's why I'm at that point where I think I need to make a change and I think I need to cut myself off from him to no longer give him that support and no longer give him, more of me than what he's giving to me. I just don't know how to be like, bye.
Oh,
It's
what do
just
you?
not in my nature to just cut people off like that.
Well, maybe that's part of your problem.
Probably.
You know, maybe you're too accessible to people who shouldn't have access to you. You saying
It's
you have
very
a hard
valid.
time cutting people off like that tells me that generally you're probably very bad at setting boundaries, or excuse me, enforcing boundaries. You're probably pretty good at setting them, but it's the forcing and follow through that you struggle with.
Yeah, well, and with him, it's like we've never set those boundaries, or the ones that we did set, we've broken all of them. So, you know,
And what
it's
boundaries like what? Like
just we had this rule early on that we wouldn't be like he wouldn't be allowed into my home alone. Like we were like, we're not going to be alone in the same space together.
sure.
And he's come to my place several times. We've never been physical. It's purely emotional, but
So I think your boundaries when it
or
comes, I think your boundaries need to be more, I guess, broad. I think your boundaries that you're setting
okay.
right now, like you're not allowed to come into my apartment, are silly, and you guys are setting them just so you can break them. And I think that's creating the excitement type of thing. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no,
I think the
definitely.
boundary you should be setting is, if I have to set a boundary about not letting a guy into my apartment, then maybe that boundary should really be, maybe we shouldn't be these types of friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you need to set that boundary, there's probably a
Right.
bigger boundary you need to be setting with this guy.
Exactly. Well, and it's just I don't know how to set that boundary and commit to it when I like him as a person, and I do get
This is gonna sound.
it's just I don't
I'm gonna make a tough love statement here. I think in order for you
give it to
to,
me, Nick.
it comes from self-respect. Your ability to
Yeah,
set
I
this
mean, because
boundary. He's not.
I
Yeah.
blatantly,
He's
I
not.
blatantly
Yeah.
know he's disrespecting me
Correct.
and he's getting so much more out of it than I am. I know that. I know all these things, but I'm still not willing to
That's
take
because,
that step of cutting him off.
well, because you lack self-respect, I guess, in a way. If you know he's not respecting you and you're generally okay with that, then that means you lack the self-respect that you need to enforce the boundary, you know?
But what would yeah, I mean, it just shows
Because I guess
self-respect that I'm
his
like,
approval of you is more important than your approval of yourself.
mm-hmm,
And his attention is more important than you feeling good about your decisions.
mm-hmm,
And then, we're not even discussing the obvious. Like, even if you get what you want with this guy, you're going to have to grapple with the fact that this guy is very easily doing things to his current girlfriend you wouldn't want to be done to you. And if he can do it with you,
exactly.
he's going to be able to do it like 2 years from now. Let's say you guys get in a relationship. At some point in your relationship with this guy, there's going to be a disconnect. You are not going to be able to fill
Mm-hmm,
a certain need that he might not be getting from this relationship. But every relationship goes through their peaks and valleys. There's connecting, there's disconnecting. And when you're disconnected from this man, just like he seems to be disconnected from his girlfriend, he's going to seek that connection elsewhere because it's going to feel easier and new and exciting. And you are green lighting this behavior.
right. You lose them how you get them.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you're kind of giving me the, like, and again, I'm saying this with love, but like your childlike self, and it's kind of childish to be like, I just can't do it. It's like you can. You're choosing not to, and you're not giving yourself enough of credit that you have the agency and the power and the control to make this difficult decision and to follow through. And for you to say things like, I can't do
Mm-hmm.
it. I know I should, but I just can't, is, childish. I'm guessing the person you want to be. And like sometimes we just have to make difficult
No.
decisions that sting a little bit in the short run, might make us, and that's what I mean. Like you need to acknowledge the sadness. You need to acknowledge it's going to feel like a breakup. And I
Right.
think that's the part that you're not doing yet. You're still trying to, you called with like, oh, how can I be friends with this guy? I mean, that, you were kind of hoping that you and I could just sit there and be like, all right, well, here's how you can be friends. You can't be friends with this guy. and you're still trying to figure that out. And you're trying to like do this equation in your head that's unsolvable. And you're just not
Yeah.
accepting the reality of the situation. And then and you just have to be more honest with yourself about how your choices are affecting your happiness and your character, and
Mm-hmm.
you just have to follow through, and you have to be willing to be sad, and you have to be willing to feel even maybe a little bit of heartbreak and disappointment over like losing what he has brought to your life that you enjoy. And then you're going to have to learn from it,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you've noticed this pattern of you getting closer and closer with men who aren't available. And yeah, there seems to
Mm-hmm.
be some reason why. Are you in therapy?
I am.
Or have you
And
talked
this is
about this
a
pattern with
frequent
your
time.
you have. So what does your therapist say?
Well, not specifically about the pattern, more about the situation with this
Well,
guy.
if I were you, I would be more
And
interested in the
yeah.
pattern than this situation, because this situation is
Okay.
easily replicable. And it's really not about this guy. It's about this pattern that you, in fact, have noticed, And for you to notice it means
Mm-hmm.
it definitely exists. Most people can't be
Yeah.
self-aware to notice patterns. And you have to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
your therapist isn't in just having fun gossiping with you about this guy. I would want
No.
I want you to like look at why you're making the choices that you're making, and what is the reason
Mm-hmm.
for you to continue this pattern. Like, what is it that you are
Mm-hmm.
missing? What void are you seemingly trying to fill as a result of this type of behavior that you're doing?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with validation. Like I'm seeking validation from other people because I do think all these wonderful things about myself. I'm successful, I'm attractive, I'm funny, I'm all of these
Yeah,
things. But I need other people, specific like mostly men to reflect that back to me.
sure, we all do.
And
But
so I
like,
think
what about single men?
yeah. It's not as fun.
Well, yeah, yeah, I hear
Um,
you. I hear you.
I don't know. I think it is, yeah, it's a validation thing, but I mean, this has been the cycle of my whole kind of like romantic relationship since I was in high school. So it's always
Were you
been like this.
popular in high school?
I had several groups of friends, but I wouldn't say I was popular, no. I
Uh,
got in disagreements with the popular girls because I
did you
liked their
did
boyfriends.
okay? Did you? Yeah. Did you? Okay, well, maybe it comes from something like that. Well, that's kind of where I was going. It's just like, I think sometimes how we are in high school really can stick with us unless we break a pattern.
I guess I
Um,
just don't know how to break the pattern besides just being like they're unavailable, so I'm not even gonna
well,
engage with them
I think
in
it's easier for you
conversation.
to do what you do if like your subconscious brain almost sees as these men's partners as like the popular girls in high school.
Hmm.
And I think you in high school felt less guilty about what you were doing because it was kind of like, hey, it's high school, all fair in love and war. If he likes you
Hmm.
today, he might like me tomorrow. And, you getting that validation from these guys who are hanging out with the popular girls, made you feel a certain way outside of just like the guy likes you. It was like a status symbol. It was like, I can compete too. I don't need, it's like popularity. And maybe it comes from something like that. But
Hmm.
like, these are the
Yeah.
type of questions I'd love for you to be discussing in therapy because, again, even if you do finally break it off with this guy, if you don't break the pattern in this need for this type of validation, you're just going to find it with
Hmm.
someone else again. And how old are you?
36.
36. Here, still relatively young, but like, do you want to keep doing this type of cycle with these types of guys for that much longer? I'm
No, I don't. And that's why I'm trying to make this change with this particular situation. It's just I guess I don't know how to enforce the boundary because it's
no, that's
like I
not
said,
true.
I
So
we've tried this two times, or I've tried this two times with him to break it off,
you got to
and
stop with the
then
language
both
of
times he's come back to me.
okay, good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, you, again, your idea of setting a boundary is asking him to respect your boundary. And then when he doesn't respect your boundary, you make it seem like you have no choice in the matter.
Yeah. I willingly accept him back because I miss him.
Yeah, I understand that. And again, if you were to enforce this boundary, you would have every right to grieve the same way you would a romantic relationship because you have feelings for this guy, and that's understandable.
Mhm.
But there's two outcomes you want, right? The best outcome right now is to be with this guy romantically and for you to explore a relationship further while he ends his relationship with a girlfriend and sees where things can go. That's your first choice. Your second choice, much further down in terms of what you'd prefer, which would be to just relieve yourself of this toxic relationship with this man because he's in a relationship and for you to move on, right? Those are your top two choices, neither of which will be accomplished by you doing what you're doing, which is to,
Right.
act like you're a victim of the circumstance and give him all the power and let him choose for the both of you what you guys decide to do. And just once in a while complain. You complaining hasn't gotten you anywhere. You actually need to do something,
Right.
and he will respect you a hell of a lot more if you show him that you're willing to enforce a boundary. You enforce a boundary right now. He's like, all right, cool. I'm just going to I'll just stop. I won't text her for a couple days. She'll miss me. I'll show up and we'll do it all over again. It's like and I don't even think he's doing it consciously, but he knows. He
Oh, I
knows.
think he is.
Maybe
I
so.
think
Well,
he
even so,
knows.
that
He
should
knows
piss you
that.
off even
Yeah.
more. I mean, again, this comes down to a
know.
level of self-respect that you are not giving yourself.
Mhm.
It should make you mad.
It's starting to. No, I mean, I feel a deep level of disrespect and sadness about the situation.
But I want you to.
Um,
You are disrespecting yourself way more than he is.
I agree. I agree. I need to make myself a priority and not necessarily care as much about how it's going to affect his life, because that's what I think about.
Yeah, that's understandable. You care about him, and it's sad.
Hmm.
But you got to let go of that narrative. This man has all the options. He could be with his girlfriend. He could be
Yeah.
with you. He's going to choose what deep down he wants for himself. What you're going to put a stop to is him feeling like he doesn't have to choose, that he can have both. And let's not
Right.
feel sorry for the guy who is trying to have his cake and eat it too, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Let's not feel sorry for the guy who's greedy, because that's what he is. You are
Yeah.
pitying someone who's being greedy.
I completely agree with you. And every time that I've brought that up to him, he gets very upset because
You got to stop trying to
probably deep down knows it's true.
Yeah, but also stop arguing with this man. It's pointless.
Yeah.
He wants to argue with you. It's an opportunity to change your mind, get in your head, play on your feelings for him. Words in these situations are just, that's how they are. They're just fucking words. You guys just, I care and I don't, does he want to be with you or not? Does he want to stop emotionally cheating on his girlfriend for you, or not? Do you want to date a weak man? Because this guy sounds pretty fucking weak, I don't know. It's just.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that I want to get that understanding from him, what he wants, but I have to take his actions as what he wants.
Correct.
Obviously, he wants to stay with his girlfriend because it's been a year now and he's still with his girlfriend. So he's made his decision.
How long is this? How long have you been in your mind? This has been, you said it's been going on for a year. How much of this year have you guys been teetering on him emotionally cheating on his girlfriend?
What do you mean teetering on it?
Well, I mean,
the whole time.
you make the whole time. I got the impression that at first it started very innocent, and you guys were just totally friends, and then maybe a couple months in, you're like, oh wait, I like this guy, or vice versa. Or you mean pretty early on you had feelings?
Pretty early on, I had feelings, and pretty early on, we, started flirting with each other, and our communication has always been very constant.
If you were her, how would this whole situation feel? If you had a mirror into your relationship, is she?
Oh, extremely shitty. Can we cuss on here?
Yeah, you can.
No, she would be devastated.
Okay, so then does that not make you see him differently, knowing that that's one thing for you. It's easier for you to put on his mind because you don't know her, you have no loyalty to her. You're disrespecting yourself by doing this, but he is disrespecting himself and her, and he's doing it with a clear conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that not change how you see this man?
No, it definitely has. I mean, I was very I didn't see it for a very long time.
Yeah.
I, put him on this pedestal of being this great stand-up, fantastic guy that I was trying to win over. And so I was, giving him, access to me to try and show him, hey, choose me. Like I'm the better fit for you. It's only been the past couple of months. And yes, I realize that that's still a long time as a couple of months, but it's only been the past couple of months that I've really come to see his true character and how he lies and how he withholds communication from me, because he knows that that's my biggest thing, is that I like to talk through things and I like to, be upfront with communication. And so him taking that away from me, he knows that that's going to drive me insane, and, try and reach back out to him. So it's only been, more recently that I've realized all of these things that have been going on, and wanting to not be in this same cycle, not wanting to feel this bad about myself. And it's providing me, more heartache than happiness at this point. And I've come to realize that. And so that's why I want to make this change. And actually, I don't know if I want to, or it's more like I need to.
I hope that you
So
want to. Yeah. And again, you can still be sad about what you're losing and still want to make the right choice. I mean,
yeah. No, it's gonna make me cry to say that I won't have him in my life. So it's really hard to think about.
But it's really not him that you're
it's also
losing.
really hard to be in this spot.
He's just not that great.
You're
crying over a person you've built up in your head. And
it's very true.
There's a part of you that might be sad missing the game, the challenge, the excitement, the up and down, like it's a chapter in your life that you're going to have to close. And these are all things you can acknowledge, but like you're just giving this man way too much credit. You're clearly not giving yourself enough,
Yeah. No.
And it should start pissing you off. I mean, again, you're young, but you're, not that young. You're not that young. You're too old to be doing this shit,
I agree with you.
Especially for a guy who, like, again, it's just, you're crying over someone who would do this to you.
Mm-hmm. And he's gotten a lot of my tears over the past year, and I don't want to give him any more.
So stop glorifying this relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I
think you're trying to compete with the girls you went to high school with still.
Potentially. I want to be the chosen one. That's always been my thing. Like, I want to be the one picked.
Yeah, and that's why you're capable of doing what you're doing, is because you're not seeing it as like a low character choice or the fact that he's doing this shitty thing to his girlfriend. You're seeing it as, if he picks me, then it was all worthwhile. Then I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And you're making it all about you being picked.
Yeah, because in other situations, like, with single men or with available men, I'm not picked. So either way, I'm not picked.
What do you mean not picked?
Yeah, like, I don't go on a lot of dates. I haven't had like a long-term relationship. And it's because, I don't connect with people often. And when I do, I get really excited about it. And the most people that I connect with are unavailable people. And so,
well, again, part of it, I think that you're connecting with unavailable people because you feel comfortable without the pressure, like we talked about, and you're clouded by the excitement of what if you can, and it feels safe, and you feel less rejected by subconsciously entertaining unavailable men. And then when you do go on the dating apps or go out with available men, and it doesn't go your way, you feel more rejected. I'm guessing, because you get in your head about like, well, fuck, they won't even pick me if they don't have a girlfriend. I mean, you're, like you said, you're an attractive person. You have a lot going for you. If you really wanted a boyfriend tomorrow, if your life depended on it, I'm confident you could have one. But the men you're going after, I'm willing to bet that the reasons you're dating aren't for love. They're not for stability or making a romantic connection. I think a lot of it is based off of being validated. And so my guess is you're going after a lot of the fuck boys, and you're going after a lot of the men who your subconscious brain is seeing an opportunity. And that opportunity is to feel validated. You're not going after men who might be able to, share and develop something. And, there's this, obviously this intense need of validation. And if I were you, therapy we know is expensive, I would be more intentional about what you are talking about in therapy, because like talking about individual situations is nice, but working with a therapist that hopefully can understand, like past traumas or the reasons why we do things, and try to look into what's causing these repetitive behaviors is a far better use of your time. Because otherwise you're just paying a therapist to talk with about your relationship problems when you exhaust your friends.
Yes, and they're exhausted.
So yeah, but you're clearly, you're very capable of making the right decisions. You're not as helpless as you're acting. And you need to just hold yourself to a higher standard. And this will change when you really want it to change.
Right. And that's only when the change can happen, is when I'm truly ready. And I keep trying, inching towards that point. And I just need to, actually take that step and, be good with that. It's just, I don't know how to do that. Do I call him up and be like, hi, I'm not talking to you again. Please don't contact me. Goodbye.
I'm willing to bet you've had plenty of these types of conversations. If I were you, I would block him right now, and I would delete his number, and I wouldn't tell him. He'll know exactly why you're being blocked, even though he acts confused, or even if he tries to act like a victim, he knows. That's what I would do. And if he goes out of his way to track you down to get a hold of you without being able to text you, then you calmly say, like, the answer. It's not even fair for you to even make me answer this question. And it's even shittier of you to make me feel like I am doing something wrong. If you really want to be in my life, you know exactly what you need to do. And if, you don't, then keep doing what you're doing. But like, I've wasted enough of my energy and time this past year, and I'm done. And it is that simple. You have to tell yourself it is that simple, because it is. I know that the feelings that you're going to feel following that will be difficult, and you'll have to process them, and you'll have to work through them, and there's no way to do this without being sad. And that is something you're just going to have to accept. And when you called in, you were hoping to figure out a solution without being sad. And that's not possible. And you're going to have to accept that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm already sad, so
well, that's good news, actually. Because the truth is, you kind of know the truth, right? And you're not really accepting it. You're kind of accepting it. And you called in with a little bit of, delusional hope. And you calling in with the question of how can I be friends with this guy is you not actually accepting the reality of your situation.
Yeah, we both brush it under the rug. We both know that our relationship is more than a friendship, but neither of us are doing anything about it. And
I think you need to stop using we and us language with this guy. You're not in a relationship. You don't have one. You're two individuals making choices, and you got to stop that language. There is no you two.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not in this together.
That's very true.
Definitely
not. He blames me for everything that's gone wrong. So that's a very terrible feeling. Because he's complicit.
You know better, and so like you got to you have to figure out a way to stop being a victim, because you're not in this situation. And when people
I'm letting it happen.
Yeah, I mean, because it's crazy for him to say, and you would rather allow him to make you feel this way than just say you're being to see it for what it is: cruel, self-centered, selfish. And instead you're just not seeing it that way.
Right. I understand that. Yeah. A great technique is blocking him and not giving him access to me, but it feels harsh. Like I haven't done that with anybody in my life. Even
I mean,
it feels very rude to me.
Your dating choices have gotten to where you are today, so maybe you need to start making different choices. And maybe you need to be a little bit more
Why can't it
harsh.
be
You got
easier?
some, well, because
Yeah.
because doing the right thing is often hard. And to get things, to
Mhm.
anything worthwhile in my life didn't come easily. Anything, whether it was love or work or, the things that we appreciate the most are often the most difficult things to get, which is kind of that logic also got you into this mess because you have almost
Mhm.
subconsciously justified this type of the behavior from the two of you is, well, your effort is it must be meaningful because I've had to work this hard for it, But that being said, this is more about you doing the right thing, and
Right.
it shouldn't be this toxic, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. I know what needs to happen, and I have to actually do it and stick to it. I just worry about, him actually reaching out and then me caving. And I have to
I mean, I don't
be
know.
ready to not cave.
Do you like you have to respect yourself. It really comes down to that. It
Hmm.
really just does.
Yeah. Cause I don't want to be treated this way. I wouldn't want to treat people this way myself. So I have to,
Well, you are allowing both to happen right now, and you
stand.
have for the past year.
Exactly.
And that should trigger
Hmm.
you in a way. You're going to have to figure something out to motivate yourself. And I think you need to start being a little bit more honest and harsh with yourself.
Yeah. No, I understand. And yeah, I think that this heartache, this anxiousness, this stress, everything from this is, a lot worse than being on the other side and being sad for a bit and, sticking up for myself. So it's just something that I need to do, and I've struggled to actually do it because I don't want to lose him.
I mean, that
But
again, I would
there's
change that language. I would, yeah, you do. Him is who he is today. And him is
Mhm.
a guy who has been able and willing to make his emotional mistress, you, feel shitty about herself when all she's trying to do is just find happiness and love. And he knows that he's doing it while simultaneously lying and deceiving his current partner. This is the person you are having a hard time letting go.
Yeah.
And you are
When you put it
not,
that way,
yeah.
yeah.
So you should want to lose that. Like, instead of talking about him in generalizations, you should talk about the behaviors he's demonstrating. I want to
Okay.
lose this type of behavior in my life. I want to lose this type
Uh-huh.
of behavior in my life, that type of behavior in my life. I don't want to lose him is such a, like,
Yeah, because
him is
what
what
even
he
is that?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him is his actions he's bringing into this relationship. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Completely.
You gotta toughen up here, You can do this, type of stuff. Stop with the "I can't," stop with "I don't know how." You're not a 16-year-old girl anymore. Stop acting like the girl that I mean, it's coming from that place. I mean, again, not a therapist, but so I think it's a pretty educated guess.
Yeah. I will definitely look to explore that more in therapy for sure. Because
Um,
yeah, we've been definitely been focused on this situation and what I can do, and coming to that conclusion that I need to
what are they
end it.
saying, just out of curiosity?
Um, we made a list of things that I could do to begin to distance myself. And I did several of those last
What was
week.
on that list?
It was to delete our text messages, because I was holding on to it, I think sort of as like evidence or as way to, hold on to the good things that he said to me. Tons of pictures. I moved them to my laptop, off my phone.
Delete them.
Mute. I can't.
You can.
I don't. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. But and then I muted him on Instagram,
I
didn't
mean,
mute him from seeing my stuff.
if you
Yeah.
get what you want, and that is him committing or trying it out, you don't even want to remember this part of this relationship.
Hmm.
Why you not
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't allow any of this if I was in a relationship with him. I wouldn't allow it. So
you wouldn't even
why
know
am
he
I
would lie to you.
allowing it?
But that's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm saying delete those pictures off your laptop. You're like, oh, I can't. And the reason you can't must be in the back of your mind. You are wondering, well, if I get what I want eventually, I'm going to want these pictures to look at. I'm going to want to be able to memorialize the beginning of a relationship. But I'm telling you, if you get what you want, you're not going to want to memorialize the time that you're going to, because right now it's very easy for you, even though it's, I mean, as difficult as it is, it's very easy for you to acknowledge his behavior. But if you get what you want, you're going to want to forget how he actually handled himself, how he treated you, how he treated his girlfriend. More importantly, you're not going to want to memorialize that anyways, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
Be like, hey, remember the time we took this picture and you had a girlfriend? Like, what are you hanging out? So what do you, you know, again, you got to, you know, you're not a victim. And the more you keep saying, I can't, or it's too hard, you're just making it harder on yourself. You want to keep doing this shit? You know, like, come on.
No, I don't. I
No,
don't. And
then
I
don't.
don't, like I said, I want, I want a partner and I want somebody I can build my life with. And this is not that. And this is not
So you got to
opening me up to that type of situation.
make different choices. You know, you got to start being the big girl that you are. You're an adult woman, you know, and you got to stop acting like the 16-year-old. You know, it's time to graduate, so to speak.
Yeah.
And again, you have a lot going for you. Like, you know, and you're going to have to get past this need for early on validation and excitement and like the intangible. And maybe the men you start going out with, maybe you need to get comfortable with being a little bored in their early dates. And you have to start like trying to identify characteristics, you know, you know, like having more compatible. I think you should focus more on compatibility rather than chemistry. You know, I think you should stop looking for men who help you see different sides of you that you didn't see before. Again, I think you're probably giving him way too much credit in that department as well.
Yeah,
you know,
probably.
It's like you got a compliment from a man that you liked and you turned it into him making you realize that you could see yourself in ways you couldn't see yourself before. Maybe you should, you know, get rid of this guy and start practicing on valuing yourself in ways that you haven't been willing to value yourself without you hearing it from a man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do believe those things about myself, but I need to believe it regardless of hearing it back from someone else. Because it's like I do believe it, but I believe it more if somebody else is.
Sure. And listen, we all love to be complimented. We all need certain levels of validation, but you know, you're old enough to start asking yourself, is this validation healthy validation or is it toxic validation? Is it coming from a place that's going to serve me long term, or is this a short term fix? Sugar and vegetables will both satisfy a craving in the short term. One of them will make you feel shitty long term, and the other one will make you feel good long term. And you know, sometimes vegetables are pretty fucking boring to eat. You know, I don't, you know, like. But you're an adult and you know that like you can't just binge on sugar all day long. And if you want to feel a certain way or look a certain way, you're going to have to make some tough choices when it comes to your diet. And the same thing when it comes to your romantic life. But you keep acting like you don't know how to not eat sugar and say no. And like, you know, and it's just like, I don't know what to do. And it's like, you know, you do.
Yeah. And I think the only thing is, when I do go out with available people, I am bored. I don't feel as strong of a connection with them. And I, give it 2-3 dates typically. And I feel like that's, good to
stop
get
looking
an understanding
for,
of somebody.
Stop looking for excitement on the first few dates. What has that gotten you? Nowhere.
Yeah.
You're prioritizing chemistry. There's a whole chapter in my book saying that talks about the difference between chemistry and compatibility and how chemistry is very difficult to trust. Chemistry is easily faked. Most fuckboys are naturally charismatic. You can feel chemistry with people who have, you had a very you worked with this guy. So there was some sort of working relationship that made you guys feel connected in a way that maybe you wouldn't feel connected if you didn't. Like I said, people who go on The Bachelor have a very intense mutual experience that connects them and makes it easier to feel a certain level of chemistry they might not feel with someone who didn't share that experience. But that doesn't mean that two people are meant to be in a romantic relationship. And so chemistry that you feel very early on is often manufactured and fake or very just hard to trust its authenticity. Compatibility, on the other hand, very early on, you can figure out what you have in common, what you enjoy doing, what you enjoy talking about. You don't have to have, it's not like you have to find the like equivalent of you, but you should have things that you can talk about and share, and that can grow. And you need, if I were you, I would start focusing on that. And I would see chemistry early on the first couple dates as a red flag, because for you, it is, and I would see boredom as a green flag for you.
Yeah, I think I definitely need to focus more on the compatibility front.
Yeah. And so when you feel boredom early on, you should challenge yourself to keep going, because you're going to have to fight through that. You're just going to, and you're going to have to try to develop a connection over time, which clearly you're capable of doing, but you're going to have to do it without the pot at the end of the rainbow, which is the validation, the hope of this validation from this person, you feel like you need it from.
Yeah, it's definitely giving too much power away, and I need to be able to give that validation to myself.
You can do this. Are you going to block them? Why don't you just do it right now?
Maybe in a day.
Why?
I can't.
You'll never be ready. You'll never be ready. Tomorrow, you'll feel just.
So the only thing that I'm thinking, you're going to be like, this is ridiculous. I already know it. But we work at the same place. I have put in my notice, but it's till the end of the month. So I could potentially see him in the coming days. And so if I block him and then see him, then that's actually so awkward.
No, you're not a victim, first of all. Again, it's only awkward if you make it awkward. It should be empowering. If I were you, if I were you, I'd block him. I'd pat myself on the back. I'd call all my girls who supported that decision. I'd say I finally block them. And I hope that they would gas you up. And I would look in the mirror and compliment yourself for finally standing up for yourself and stop putting up with this shitty behavior. And if you were to run into him, then I would feel good about it and say to him, what happened, and stop. I'm over this. And I would walk away. I wouldn't engage in conversation with him. I don't know where you live or what the climate is. If you really need to work out, you could do some laps around the block or whatever, do some, lunges in your house or apartment. You do not need to go to this gym. Like so again, you blocking him and going to this gym is this you tricking yourself, or again, finding an excuse or a loophole to not enforce the boundary, which is you blocking him.
I agree. All right, should I get it out and block?
I think you should. Let's block him and then delete his number. Don't. That's so scary. Screenshot. It's not scary. You're not 16 anymore.
Don't screenshot. Yeah, you know where my brain went.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, at some point, you just have to be fed up with yourself.
Yeah.
40 is going to come real fast.
Yeah.
Which will be fine when you hit it. But
yeah.
If you turn 40 and you're doing this shit, it's going to be a real tough birthday.
Yeah.
Did you block him?
Okay. Blocking.
All right. Delete his number now. Block him on Instagram. Block him on Snapchat. Block him on whatever the fuck.
I luckily only have Instagram, so
block. Let's go ahead and do that. You got your phone in front of you. Go ahead, block.
I don't know why this is so stressful to me.
Well, because you're actually doing something you're not used to doing, But you got to change your attitude. Your attitude is so victim mindset. Like, be proud of yourself. You just did something that you really struggled doing. Like, pat yourself on the back. Like, have a sense of accomplishment and pride in yourself. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
I think I tend to think about what I'm losing as opposed to what I'm gaining. And I need to focus on what I'm gaining.
Set an appointment with your therapist and talk about why you are like the patterns, And
I will.
God, you don't need just cut to the fat, You don't need a slow burn respecting yourself.
Definitely doing the slow burn situation. Yeah. Need to take more action.
Well, keep us posted how this is going. Cry to your friends, but try to pat yourself on the back. Try to feel a sense of pride, Because until you're able to do that, like, if you're just going to go into this victim mindset of like, I'm so sad, I don't know if I can do this, I'm heartbroken. Yeah, I mean, you're going to make yourself vulnerable for when he eventually, inevitably bangs down your door, so to speak. And just keep in mind that like he needs to come correct. Him saying I'm sad and I can't do this. No, if he doesn't show up at your door and then like I ended it, even then I would I would proceed with caution.
Right. Agreed.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome. I'm proud of you. Now,
Thank you.
follow through. This is your life, you know? I mean, I'm serious.
Yes. Well, yeah, I don't want this to be my life. So I need to actually follow through with that.
Yes. And
because
you can.
yeah, I don't want this. Yeah.
You can and you're capable.
Exactly.
All right. Take care.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Article is an online furniture company that sells modern furniture and decor directly to consumers. Article cuts out the middleman and passes the savings on to you. Article expanded their best-selling living room collections with hundreds of new sofas, beds, sectionals, modern sofas, lounge chairs, swivel chairs, ottomans, and more. Plus, they have launched 9 new fabric options, allowing you to pick the perfect sofa to create your dream living space. Article believes in delightful design for every home. And thanks to their online model, they have some really delightful pieces too. Their curated assortment of mid-century, modern, coastal, industrial, Scandi, and boho designs make furniture shopping simple. They have a great selection. Nally and I, we've talked about it over and over. We got some amazing article pieces for our backyard. We also have an article couch, which has been a fan favorite of the company that we have. It's such a great selection. They have great prices, and the best part is their shopping experience they offer to you. They have inventory. That's what matters. They have things in stock. It doesn't take forever to get the things that you order. I mean, if you're like me, when you get something new and you make an investment, you want to enjoy that investment as soon as possible. And Article makes that possible. Plus, if for some miracle that you're not obsessed with your new Article furniture, they make the return and exchange process incredibly easy and efficient. Article's knowledgeable customer care team is there when you need to make sure that experience is smooth and stress-free. Article is offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, visit article.com/VIALL, and the discount will be automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/VIALL for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. Viall Files is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online counseling platform that offers therapy services through video, phone, live chat, and online messaging. Listen, people, we talk about the importance of therapy all the time. If you are someone who believes in eating right or exercising on a regular basis to make sure you are your best self, well, you're missing one piece. That's your mental health. And I've always said therapy is far better when it's treated like a seatbelt rather than reconstructive surgery. Well, that's how I use therapy. And if you ever, but we understand the reluctance to get into therapy. It can be costly. It can be inconvenient. It can be a little nerve-wracking, hard to find a good therapist that's right for you. Well, that's where BetterHelp comes in because they are very good at all of those things. 1, it's more affordable than in-person therapy. 2, they are working with thousands and thousands of new therapists every day to help ensure that you are matched with a therapist that's right for you. And 3, it's super convenient. All you really need is a tablet, a phone, whatever is best and most convenient for you to just get it out, to talk to someone. So whatever you're worried about, whatever is taking up mental energy and space in your life, allow BetterHelp to alleviate some of those stresses in your life. To start, just go to BetterHelp.com, answer a few questions about the type of therapy you're looking for, and they will match a therapist that's right for you. And for some reason you don't feel connected to that therapist, no problem. You can keep switching therapists until you land on someone that you are obsessed with. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/VIALL today to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/VIALL. Helix is the best place to get the perfect mattress. Yeah, we've talked a lot about Helix. We love them. We're obsessed with them. We think it's the greatest mattress ever made on this planet. We'll be sleeping on a Helix mattress for the rest of our lives. So are our children, so are our loved ones. Wherever we go, we are praying, hoping that they also will have a Helix mattress for us to sleep in. I firmly believe that at any hotel, if they went all Helix, they would get our business all the time. They have a lineup of 20 unique mattresses. We personally use the Moonlight mattress. No matter how you sleep hot, sleep cold, sleep on your side, sleep on your back, sleep on your stomach, sleep curled up in a little ball. They have a mattress that's right for you. All you got to do is go online, take a quick quiz, tell them a few of your sleeping preferences, and they will pair you with the right mattress. They have their award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections. Their Helix Plus, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kid mattress designed for those growing bodies, endorsed by child sleep experts. They also, because they're so confident in their mattress, they give you a 100-night sleep trial, and all their mattresses come with a 10 to 15-year warranty. So they know that you're going to love it. Helix is offering 20% off plus 2 free Dream pillows for all mattress orders. Go to helixsleep.com/VIALL. That's helixsleep.com/VIALL. With Helix, better sleep starts now. How's it going?
Hi, my name is Sylvia. I'm 43 years old, and I wanted to ask how I can get over my insecurities or jealousy with my husband.
What are your insecurities that are causing your jealousy?
See, that's like the main issue is there's not really anything that it's me. I'm insecure. I'm jealous of other women, of how they look. I'm afraid, like when I stop myself when we're gonna go places, because I got constantly thinking like, who's gonna be there? What are they gonna be wearing? Are they gonna be attractive women? Is he gonna think about them later? Is he gonna, like, it's just my mind
Okay.
does not stop.
Well, I've always thought that the reason we get jealous is because we have some kind of insecurity, right? And our insecurities can come from two different places when we're in a relationship. They can come from the behavior of our partners. They're doing something, maybe they're very flirtatious, maybe they're kind of do things that kind of don't make much sense. They show up late or whatever, or our insecurities can come from past trauma, like childhood trauma, past relationships, things like that. So do you think it's more your husband's doing things that you were like, you've just kind of accepted, but deep down don't feel right, that are causing you to be jealous? Or have you had shit happen to you in the past that you haven't really processed or worked through or gotten over that's causing you to react the way you're acting with your husband?
So I would say it's probably a combination of both. Like when I was a teenager, my first boyfriend, there was a lot of jealousy on both parts. Then my first marriage, when I was in my 20s, um, he would tell me things like, "Oh, men think like this and men think like that," and he would kind of put things in my mind about how men think when they look at other women, or how men act, or what men are thinking in terms of, like, if a friend of mine came over, he would make comments about them, right? So now fast forwarding to my husband, he doesn't really. So in the beginning, I was extremely jealous, and I would make it known. But as I've gotten older, I suppressed it a lot. I don't say anything to him. Like, I never express jealousy. Like, he'll be like, "Oh, I want to go over here." And even though inside me, I'm like, I don't want him to go because I'm afraid he'd meet somebody, or I'm afraid
So what is he
whatever the
doing?
case may
Give me
be
an
in my
example
mind.
of something he's doing that's bothering you.
Well, he won't do it. So, for example, like, he'll be like, "Oh, I want to go to a car show," and then he'll be like, "Do you want to come?" And he'll always invite me, and I'll be like, no, that's okay, but you can go." Like, just like that, you can go. And then the time will come, or the day will come, and I'll be like, "Are you going to go to the car show?" I'll be like, "Nah, I changed my mind." So he doesn't do anything. Like, I'll be honest with you, he's a good guy, and he does know about my insecurities because we've been together for like 15 years now. So in the beginning, I was very much about everything. But now, he knows that I'm way more laid back. I don't say anything, but it's like in here. So, for example, I'll just give you a recent example. We went to a Halloween event, and we went with two other people that I don't know, and they were friends of a friend. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, does he find these women attractive? Well, what is he thinking? Like, this is all in my mind. When we jump in the car to head back home, we just start talking because it was an hour drive home, and we just start talking. We're just, talking shit. And then I'm like, "Well, what did you think of the girls that were there?" And I named them by their names. And he was like, "I mean, they were attractive." And so that right away, it started making me feel some type of way. And then I'm like, well, what did you find attractive about them? Like, just like talking though, he wasn't picking up, because I'm really good at kind of like, I don't want to say manipulating, but I guess it was manipulating the situation to make him feel like it was okay to talk to me about this. And so then he's like, "Oh, well, to be honest, she had a nice butt." So then that was a stab in my heart. Okay. It was literally a stab. And I'm like, "Oh, we, kikied, laughed a little bit." And then on to the next subject. When we got home, he was like, my favorite part of tonight was in the car back home with you, all the talking that we did. It was just like, it was my favorite part of the night. And I'm like, oh, whatever, nothing. But like, then it just kind of like stood in my head. Then I'm obsessing about this girl. I'm looking her up. I'm, trying to see like, what does she look like normally? Like, it's just so unhealthy. But he has no idea because I don't act like that in front of him. I'm very nonchalant about it. I don't want him to feel like he's doing anything wrong because he's not. He doesn't go anywhere. Doesn't really do anything. This is me. This is my internal whatever. And let me tell you this, I've tried to listen to podcasts. I've tried, meditation. I've tried everything. This in particular part of me doesn't grow. Like I can't evolve. I can't grow from just being the 16-year-old me with this insecurity, and he'll sometimes say things to me that I feel like he's trying to make me feel better. But in turn, I switch around in my head. Like he'll be like, oh, you were you're always like the most beautiful girl in the room. And, things like that, he'll say. And then I'll start thinking like, oh, so he is looking at other women and he is judging, like it's just so bad. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate
So
feeling
why,
like this.
why
I do. And
why
I was
are
like,
you like, I mean, I think you
I
can
don't know
control it more than
why.
you
I
realize.
don't.
You must get some kind of excitement from it.
I get hurt from it. Like I feel like jabs in my heart and my
I mean,
in my stomach.
are you guys like, I mean, you said you were together for 15 years. Like maybe, are you guys just, are you bored?
No. I'm not. I mean, there's nothing like, no, I'm not bored. It's not because this has been going on since the beginning. I just have changed how how I process it and how I deal with it. Before I used to just be like, oh, you were looking at her. I saw you looking at her. And oh, I saw your eyes turn that way or whatever the case may be. I would confront him. Now I just kind of be like, I mean, there's going to be attractive people where we go. Like I can't like help that. There's, we live in a big city. Like there's nothing I can do.
Like,
so I have to
don't we all like to be chosen and picked? In fact, I talk to a lot of, women, for example, who struggle with, chasing men for the sake of validation in order to feel chosen and picked. You just have to change your perspective, I guess. I mean, one, it sounds like maybe there's some like stuff going on inside of you that you haven't worked through. I don't know if you've talked to a therapist about this type of behavior that you've dealt with, but like that would be good place to start. And I would definitely look into that. If you can say, hey, I've always struggled with this, I've always felt this way, I've kind of always internalized these feelings and gone down these mental rabbit holes, and like there is a reason why. And, we're not going to be able to address it on this call, but I would definitely explore that with a therapist. That being said, like there is an element of like, you just have to change your perspective in a sense that like every day your husband's choosing you. When he chooses not to go to these events, maybe it's, again, he's choosing you. When he's saying, oh, you're the prettiest girl in the room. Yeah, maybe he is looking, but he is choosing you. Every day he wakes up and he has the option to look at other women or be with other women, but still every day comes back and chooses you. I would feel good about your husband continuing to choose you every day because honestly, that's what it comes down to in terms of making relationships work. You're seeing it as, I don't know, something else other than being chosen. But,
that's a different perspective that I've never thought about, but
yeah, I mean, like your big problem is like you're just choosing it to see it in a negative way. Why you're choosing it to see it in a negative way is something I would explore with a therapist if I were you. Because there seems to definitely be a reason why. Obviously, we're just not going to be able to unpack that in a call like this. But it probably has something to do with your past, some kind of past trauma with a boyfriend or a parent. I don't know. But, it's usually one of those things. But yeah, I mean, if you're really tired of it, I would invest in exploring that, because eventually it is going to cause a rift in your relationship.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that he's younger than me doesn't help the situation.
How much younger?
He's 6 years younger.
Okay, I mean, you've been together for 15 years.
Yeah. So
well, you don't look your age, so there you go. You look great.
Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate that. But it's just I don't know. I hear you talking to other people and I'm like, oh my God, that's great advice. Oh my God, that's something I would have said to my friends. And then I'm like, maybe he can, but I know it's like more in here, it's like more in my head than anything. But like, I want to know like what he's thinking. And You know,
No, you don't.
it
You
hurts,
know,
and I don't, but I do, because I'll be like, I want
you
to,
clearly like torturing yourself. You know, I've always said, like, the brain prefers pain to boredom, and you are getting
it's
stimulation
true.
off of this. It's preoccupying your mind. Maybe it's distracting. Maybe you've gotten used to doing this to distract you from other things, but like you are in a way getting off on this, and you are choosing to do nothing about it. If you can point out that this has been a pattern for a long time and you've done nothing about it, then that's a choice that you're making.
But the reason why I feel like I don't do anything about it is because I feel like I still wonder, and I still want to know. So even though I didn't do anything about it, I still, like, kind of, like I said, I suppressed my feelings and just kind of, okay, whatever it is, this is how I feel and that is what it is. But, like, for example, like, I won't bring, people to my house, like females. I won't bring female friends over when he's around, and sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, your friend's coming? Great. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go to my cousin's house, or I'm gonna go, over here." And I don't know if he does it because he senses how I am, or if it's just because he takes this as an opportunity to get the hell out and go hang out with his cousin and his friends. But I don't know. And I've talked to therapists. Actually, I have. I've seen several, and
About
I don't
this
know why,
problem?
but no, that's what I was gonna say. It's like, I don't know why, but I don't ever bring this up. This is not something that like, I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I don't want to talk about it with, somebody, and yeah, I don't know. Like
Well,
you,
if it,
me
I
telling you,
mean,
it's like,
it's really up to you how much energy and time you want to keep putting into this.
yeah, you're right.
Also, like
I-
a therapist, that's why you pay them money, to not judge you, to listen and work through your problems. It's like you can recognize it's a problem. You say you don't want to do it, but it's just like you do it anyways, and you don't do anything to change it, But like you're
yeah,
demonstrating behaviors that are just like aren't normal or healthy, and it's obviously coming
no,
from a place, and you should want to do something about it.
yeah. So asking him is not like, I shouldn't be asking him, right? I shouldn't be like, so what did you think of
Well, I mean, I don't
that
know.
person? Or
It's different for every couple. Other couples are more secure and feel confident in their relationship, and it can be fun. Some couples enjoy like talking about like what they find attractive in other people and don't feel threatened and, can have a fun doing that. But like, it doesn't seem like you can. So if it's
right.
triggering for you and makes you like stalk random strangers because he acknowledged some girl has a nice ass, just again, especially because you asked him to and like fucking egged it out of him. But like,
I did, literally. I was
um,
like, yeah.
are you checking out other men? Which, like, there's no wrong answer, but like, are you projecting your
Mm,
like how you look at other men and fantasize about other men into your partner, or like, are you doing that and then assuming he's doing the same thing as you, type of thing?
I mean, you may be right. I mean, I don't sit there and be like, oh my God, this guy's so fine. But if,
Well,
somebody's
exactly,
handsome,
right?
like,
Like you can look at a
yeah,
guy and be like, oh, that's an
bam,
attractive man. Oh, he's hot, whatever. But like, you
right.
don't. What do you don't.
But that's where I feel like, well, like, it's different because men are wired differently. So men might
Yeah, I
think,
mean, well, sure, they are wired differently, but like both men and women cheat, sometimes for different reasons. But like the stats are pretty clear that it's pretty even. There's not one doesn't cheat more than other. Like they're human beings can be human beings, and human beings can often do shitty things for different reasons. So like him being a guy isn't like doesn't make him more or less capable of cheating than you. The fact that you're a woman,
right, yeah.
So
I don't think like, hmm
it's like you have to recognize that, like, yeah, it's like you choose him. So you can look at a guy and be like, oh, he's attractive, and still be like, yeah, but, there are other people in this world and people are attractive, and sometimes it's fun to just
hmm
acknowledge the obvious and then know that you're securing your relationship, that you don't have to be threatened by like walking outside of your house.
right. No, and like we used to have fun when we were a little younger. We used to play those little games, like, oh, drive down Lakeshore Drive and be like, oh, look at that, whatever. But then, like, I don't know if it was maybe too much for me, or I don't know, but I've been really good about everything, but I think this Halloween thing that happened kind of brought everything back up. And then we were throwing a party, and I was like, oh, we're throwing a party. And then I started to overthink it, like, what are these bitch is going to be wearing. And like, I just start like overthinking it. And then I'm just like, you know what? It is. It's out of my hands. It's a Halloween party. They can wear whatever the fuck they want. I don't know, what else to do, or, and everything was fine. Like nothing
Are you and
crazy
your
happened. I
husband
mean,
connecting? Like, are you bonding? Are you like what are you guys doing to stay connected and to reinforce the love and affection that is or isn't in your relationship?
yeah. Um, no, I think we have a good relationship. We do things probably that, may seem boring to other people. Like, we watch Love Island, or we'll watch like shows together, and,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
talk
great.
about
But
the
are you
shows, and,
connecting when you do those things? Like, when you're being intimate, are you setting aside time to connect and be intentional about connecting, caressing each other, talking intimately about things? Like, watching TV together is nice, but it's not really connecting.
No, well, I feel like, I mean, that's true, but we talk a lot. I think now we are more connected than we've ever been, as far as like in our relationship. We're I think at our peak right now. We've been really good. We do fight and bicker, whatever, like everybody, but nothing crazy. Like I would consider to be I think I'm a lucky person. I know that it's rough out there. So I feel like I'm a lucky girl to have, him. And I feel like we do have a great relationship. There's no complaints, intimately, nothing. Like we make sure that we make time for each other. We go out on dates. No, that is true. Like, I can't complain about that. It's just, like I said, it's just like it's in my head. It's
Well, I
like
mean, I
I'm
would.
ruining it for us. And he
eh,
doesn't even know it because I don't bring it to him. I don't like to
Maybe
tell
you
him,
should. I
like,
don't know.
hey,
Like, you need to talk about it with someone other than me. And I would.
right,
I mean, if the short and obvious answer is, if I were you, I would look into a therapist to talk about why you do and feel the way you do, and why you look to create unnecessary drama in your relationship, because that's what you're doing.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
And if you can acknowledge it, then you can change it.
Yeah, I know this is an issue for me.
But as you've stated, you've known it's an issue for a long time and you've done nothing about it.
No, I've never done that. And I don't know why, like maybe during therapy, I don't know why I never brought it up.
Well, who
I feel
cares? It doesn't
embarrassed.
matter at this point. Forget about it. Water under the bridge, wasted money. But if I were you, I would get a therapist. I'd walk into that meeting and say, this is why I'm here. I've been struggling with this specific problem. I'd like to understand why. I'd like to work on my own insecurities and find out why I, in some level, like create unnecessary drama in my life, or why I tend to self-sabotage. But like, I'm constantly feeling jealous, and I'm starting fights in a way. Like, it doesn't turn into a fight, mostly because it seems like your husband doesn't engage in it, and at least you know enough not to go there. But like, in your mind, you're fighting. Like, you shouldn't be
Hmm.
stalking random women's Instagram the way you are for the reasons that you are. Like, and that's
Well,
creating drama in your mind.
it, it was one person,
Doesn't matter.
but
Yeah,
okay.
one too many, but like, and I'm
Yeah,
sure you could give me other examples of things that you have done that I would be like, why are you
yeah,
doing that? Right. So that's really the point. So
yeah.
that's what I would do. And I wouldn't just walk in and be like, hey, so, I just thought I'd jump into therapy for fun or because or whatever, and just someone to shoot the shit with. But like, which would be fine too. But like, you have a very specific reason and something you want to work on. And if I were you, that's what I would do, because you've tried to do it on your
Hmm.
own. You can't. You haven't.
Hmm.
And that's okay. Because if you don't change it, eventually, it will start causing problems.
Yeah, no, I will. It has before in the past, but I know it's not anyone's fault really but his. So I try to just, you know.
I hope I was a little bit helpful, but I think this is a matter of perspective. I think you have to challenge yourself to not go down those rabbit holes. You have to, with or without a therapist, if you can acknowledge that you should know better, then you can choose not to do the things. You can choose to not look up this person. You can say, hey, like,
Hmm.
you cannot give in to your intrusive thoughts or your weak feelings. You can
Hmm.
choose. And then you can talk
Yeah,
to a therapist to figure out why you have these feelings in the first place, or why it's so hard for you to follow through.
yeah, I will.
Okay. Well, keep us posted, letting us how it goes. I'd be curious what you learn.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Man.
All right, bye-bye. This podcast is sponsored by Jack Black. Jack Black offers a full line of men's products. Whether you're cleansing, whether you're moisturizing, whether you're cleaning that beard, you can treat yourself to some luxury right at home. It is the perfect gift for any man who cares about self-care. And if he doesn't care about self-care, maybe he needs to care about self-care, and maybe Jack Black is the perfect gift this holiday season. Jack Black was founded with the goal of making men's body care products that are just as effective as women's. Their commitment to superior skincare has made Jack Black the #1 men's body care brand by total dollar sales, according to Sakana. The quality of Jack Black is unbeatable and the prices are just right. They are a one-stop shop for all holiday stocking stuffers. 3-piece lip balm sets, SPF moisturizer. Jack Black's gifting sets are available now, so you can be well groomed for the holidays. It's an amazing stocking stuffer, just remember that. Jack Black gift sets are ideal for upcoming trips this holiday season too. These sets are perfectly sized for carry-ons so that you get the benefits of convenience without sacrificing quality. Jack Black offers free shipping in the U.S. on orders over $50 or more, and they're dropping new promo offers every week. Now is the time to give Jack Black a try this holiday season if you want simple, effective products that help you look your best, or more importantly, help your man look his best. You need Jack Black. Head to getjackblack.com/VIALL and use code VIALL for 10% off your order. Once again, that's getjackblack.com/VIALL for 10% off. And make sure to use my code VIALL so they know we sent you. It's the season of giving, and if you want to give a great gift, you got to give a gift from the heart, and that's where Storyworth makes the perfect gift. Have you ever wanted to help your loved one capture timeless stories for future generations? Storyworth makes it fun and easy to write an entire book of life memories. Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved ones a thought-provoking question that you get to pick. Things like, what was your bravest thing you've ever done? What's the farthest you ever traveled? Or how did you get to school every day? One of my favorite memories growing up was hearing my dad and all my aunts and uncles and grandparents talk about stories of when they were younger or where they were kids. And that's how Storyworth keeps those great memories alive through generations. Have those loved ones in your life. Write those stories down and memorialize those stories so that generations to come can know who their grandparents or aunts and uncles or mom and dads were, what they worried about, their greatest moments of their life, things they've overcome. It's an absolutely wonderful gift. It's a gift that I gave my father that he cherishes to this day. Families love Storyworth. That's why it has more than 35,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago. Help your family members share and capture their stories this holiday season with Storyworth. Go to storyworth.com/VIALL today and save $10 off your first purchase. That's storyworth.com, spelled STORYWORTH. That's STORYWORTH.com/VIALL to save $10 on your first purchase. Storyworth.com/VIALL. How's it going?
Great. My name is Hannah. I am 24, and I'm not sure if I made a mistake getting back together with my boyfriend.
Okay. It's usually not great that you're wondering.
I mean, I would agree with that.
When did you break up and when did you get back together?
So we broke up about a year and a half ago. So we had been dating for about a year and a half at that point. We broke up for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then I moved. Yeah. And then we got back together. So it's been about a year now that we've been together again.
And have you been feeling this doubt for the better part of a year, or has that crept up recently?
I would say that when we first got back together, I was honestly not 100% sure, but I think a lot of what I had been asking for which led to the breakup, I was seeing. So logically, it almost made sense because I saw that he was putting in the work. He was never willing to go to therapy before, but as soon as we broke up, it was he started going to therapy. He started really connecting with his friends and doing things that I had asked for, and he was really attentive and cared so much about me, and so I saw all of that there. And then but I kind of had I'm not really sure if this is the right thing, but I felt almost I would lose him if I didn't get back together, because he had been putting in so much of the work over those 6 months to get into a place where I trusted him again. And then the last year collectively, I think that some of that effort has worn off, which I mean, I know that can happen in a relationship, but the biggest thing is that I moved across the country to move in with him. And like, this is the third big move that I've made in the last 3 years.
So you got back together and then moved across the country for him.
A year later. Yeah. So a lot of effort there. And when I was moving across the country, he did not help with that move at all. I paid for everything. I did the move myself. I did it like with me and a friend and moved everything into the apartment, found the apartment, like helped with all of it. And the effort was not there as much as I would have liked to see.
Do you live
And
by
so I
yourself
think
or
I'm
with
feeling
him?
that especially. I live with him. So we moved in together.
When you moved across the country, you immediately moved in with him?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And you found the apartment?
I found the apartment. We live with another couple and I found them as well. So it's been a lot of effort on my side over the last few
You
years.
guys
And
live
that's
with
what led
another
to the
you
break.
guys live with another couple?
Correct.
What's
Yeah.
that like? That's unique.
It's honestly been, yeah, no, I mean, we're young and we're in a really big city, so it's expensive, but they're incredible and I love them. And it's honestly been really nice to see another couple that's like our age and almost like we've been together around the same time as well. So it's kind of like a direct comparison, if you will. So seeing how they like interact versus like how we do is like definitely been interesting.
Okay. So well, I guess at the end of the day, why are you feeling this doubt about your relationship or specifically your boyfriend?
When we first broke up, like I guess a little bit more context there, I was like, he's a year and a half younger than me. We met in college and we were doing long distance. And every 2 to 3 weeks, I was driving like 17 hours to go see him back when he was finishing up college, or I'd be flying. And I put in a lot of work there, and I kind of understood it then because he was finishing up school. And then he just like wasn't really super appreciative. He didn't care as much. And then I think that now, like, it's been kind of that same energy. And I just feel like maybe I was mistaken to get back with him because like maybe he hadn't changed enough upon like getting back together or like during that time we were separated.
Yeah, I mean, no one changes that much in that short period of time. So there is just that kind of rule of thumb. Silver lining, I mean, I guess you could look at it as, your boyfriend's still relatively young and you never want to have to like break up with someone to get him to like respond, but not everyone responds the way you want them to when you decide to leave. And then you're right. Sometimes you get back together, things will fade. I think that always happens, right? Like whether you break up or not, but like there are, again, periods of connecting with your partner. Sometimes there are periods of feeling disconnected. The big question is, if you start feeling disconnected with your boyfriend again and you bring up, hey, just feeling a little disconnected and whatever the reasons, is he, more willing to listen and respond rather than you having to threaten to break up again? But that being said, my question to you right now is your doubts more about him doing or not doing things you want, or is it generally how you feel about him? Or are you starting to question, it's like, I don't know, I'm 24. Is this really my guy? Is this really my future? And you're just telling yourself it's more, like you're kind of making excuses and putting on him, or as opposed to, if you're more honest with yourself, is this like, I don't know, do I really love this guy the way, or maybe you want to, you know what I'm saying? Like we're deep down.
Yeah,
What do
no,
you think what do
absolutely.
you think's driving this doubt?
I think that a lot of it is that, like, I think that, him being someone who comes from like a very like stable family, and I don't come from a stable of a family, and him like having all these things, like boxes that he kind of checks, but also like not really seeing him like love me the way that I feel like I need to be loved as much. Like I've had those conversations. Like when I put in a ton of effort, he's not putting in that as well. So I'm almost feeling like for someone who checks all these boxes as a person, like I think I should be feeling more or like getting more. And I also like, I guess I'm just like feeling like, okay, if this is the best that I can do, I'm not as happy as I wish that I could be. And, I feel so loved and cared about from like my friends, and they've like, helped me move across the country. and they have been by my side when things get hard a lot of the times. And he has other priorities. He focuses on work so much. He does all these things that, like, yes, are good and great, but I'm almost like, I've explained to him so many times, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm the one that is going to be there for you when you succeed. So I'd love if you were there for me, like, when I'm, struggling, or when I'm like trying to do these things for our relationship. Like, I'm moving our relationship forward, and I almost just feel like he's not seeing this as an investment the same way that he sees like his work as an investment, or like going to the gym as an investment, like it's not the same. And I think I do try really hard to like be a good girlfriend, and I put in a lot of work to our relationship that I feel like he doesn't like appreciate. But just because it's like there and it kind of is working for him, he doesn't feel like he needs to put in that effort, because it's just kind of working as is. So I think that I just like feel like I'm not getting.
What do you think? What are the things that you're doing that you feel like he's not appreciating?
I mean, for one, moving across the country, putting in all of that work, and him not being anywhere, and just kind of showing up into his new apartment with everything moved in,
Did you
and it being like, oh, thank you. Oh, absolutely.
And then what was his response?
I mean, I told him, like, during the move, like the actual move while I was moving, that like I was really disappointed that he couldn't prioritize like coming and helping me at least a little bit. And there was ways that even with him not physically being there, that he could have helped, like knowing that I hadn't like eaten all day, or like knowing that I hadn't, like that I was struggling with like, finding like a gas station or something. Like, he could have helped in other ways. And then the other thing is, during that whole move, he asked me for another favor on top of that. So it's like almost like not really empathizing with the whole, how much work I've put into that.
And in that particular situation, did you express your expectations explicitly, or did you hope that he would meet your expectations without communicating them?
See, I think that like looking back on it, I think I could have done a better job of saying like, hey, if you could show up for me in this way, like I'd really appreciate it. But at the same time, like there was, and I don't think I held that against, I still don't think I hold that necessarily against him. But I do think that like during the move, there were certain things that I was like, hey, like I found a place. Here's the like all of the details. Like, I need you to send me this for like the security deposit, for example. And like he couldn't just like send that. I was trying to get everything lined up for him, and it was like I need to go talk to like my mom, or I need to go and like do this thing. And it was very like meeting or like not being super helpful or supportive, and it just felt like a lot of resistance, which I do think in general, it's like if I do set expectations with him, I'm almost like always a little bit disappointed. So I think I just like try to take things on myself. But I think in this move, like not all of it I can say is like his fault, but the way that he's responded to it since, it just like maybe wasn't like what I was looking for either.
Gotcha. Okay. Question. What are your relationship and life goals including potential career goals and things like that? And what are his relationship and life goals that you're aware of? As of today, I'm curious. I'm curious about, and the reason why I'm asking this question is I'm curious if you guys are in the same stage of life.
I would say that we're pretty in similar stages of life. The only like, so yeah, we both are like starting our career. I have like 2 jobs. I work as like a wedding photographer, and I also work like a full 9 to 5. So pretty busy like throughout the week, and as is he. But I would say that like I care a lot more about building relationships and friendships, and more like working to live rather than living, or I'm not trying to just like have a job and have that be my whole life. And I think that he's like more willing to put in that now. And then looking for like the future, I feel like I'm very kind of, I don't know if I want children, and he does want to have children, but I think I could be convinced. But I just think that if I'm with a partner who I have to kind of like be the project manager for, or almost like be more of the mom and like make sure that things are like lined up, I just like feel really uneasy about bringing a child into the world. And I think that that's like something that stresses me out, like getting into 3 years in a relationship with someone I know it's not like that long. And I also know that I'm only 24, but at the same time, it's like if you're in a serious relationship and they're interested in having children, like someday that might be the case. So I kind of like look at him and I'm like, okay, are you stepping up for me in the way that like I would potentially need if I brought a child into this world? So I do think that there's a huge difference there, but I think it's also just like, I didn't have like a super stable family growing up. So I think that I'm a little bit more hesitant for the whole kid situation.
How much does he still rely on mom and dad?
Honestly, like he comes from an extremely wealthy family, and I was like grew up in poverty, so he still relies on them for a lot of things just because they will give it to him. And he like calls his dad all the time for like advice on work, or to like get his like resume checked, or to like for a job interview for connections. And his parents still pay for his groceries. And that's like something that like he's like, well, if they're going to do it, like might as well take advantage of it. And I have always been so independent that I think it like there's nothing, I guess, wrong with it, but it definitely is like it's a little bit tough for me to like not be independent in some ways like that.
You're 24, he's a year and a half younger than you, so he's like 22 and a half, right? That's super young for a guy these days. In general, men are maturing slower than men have always matured slower than women. And I just think in 2024, we're expecting a lot less, I think, of young adults in general, and specifically men. So, and there's exceptions to every rule, and maybe your boyfriend's one of them. That being said, it's just like, if you're going to date a younger man as a 24-year-old woman, I think you need to be willing to be very good at stating your expectations rather than hoping they meet your expectations. And I think we all, it's like, listen, and we all want to, we don't want to be the nag, and we don't have to want to tell people we want to do things, and we want them to want to do things for us. Are you his first serious girlfriend? So there's a little bit of learning here on his end if, it's his first type of thing. So there is that. Now, that doesn't mean you need to do that, so to speak, but, you got to kind of ask yourself kind of what you want now and where you want to go, so to speak. A lot of the things that you're expressing, I think it just are kind of normal feelings, but, do you love him kind of thing in your heart? Do you feel like you really care about this man and love him, or are you comfortable with him? There also must be a draw of him coming from a rich family. There's that. I don't know.
No, I think that he like, if you look at him on paper and in general, like you're like, wow, like what a cool guy. And I do think that I know that I love him for, being with him for 3 years and all these things. We've done a lot together. I will say though, that like, there's so much that I feel like we not even like butt heads on. And I get like, I do completely, I'm listening to your show all the time. Like, I know that I'm like, okay, Nick's going to say that like, he's 23, he's younger than you, like he's not mature. Like I get all of that, but it's like, he has shown efforts like in spurts where it's like, okay, yeah, he is saying what I'm setting expectations. He's doing those things for a few months. Right. He kind of falls back into this, like almost being lazy with it or thinking that I'm just going to still be there. And I get that, but it's almost like, I don't know if I truly feel super like loved. Like, sure, I might say that I love him, but it's like, I don't feel loved because I have to keep nagging. And I do think that it's like after 3 years, like some of the foundation of like, hey, I get that like setting expectations is so important, but like, I do think I am someone who over communicates rather than under communicates. And I do think that it's like a situation where like I do love him, and I do see that like there's so many. Yeah, it's obviously having like a rich family, having that stability is something that I never had. And I think in some ways, because I have had no relationship models, it's like, is this normal that it's so hard for us to have a conversation without it like becoming an argument? Like he literally said recently that like he doesn't really see the point of having a conversation if we're not like arguing about something. And I'm like, what does that even mean? So it's tough to like talk about things that I care about or that I'm passionate about, because he's like, it'll cut the conversation almost and just like, talk about work or things that he's interested in. So it's like, sort of like, are these things normal, or am I just being kind of in my head about like, okay, well, maybe I don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. And maybe it's like because of how I grew up that I don't think that this is how it should feel.
What are you arguing about?
Well, for example, there was a conversation around parental leave, which I think that I'd be interested to hear your take on too. But like it came up that father should, I asked him basically, like, how long do you think that men should go on parental leave? And he said, well, my dad only took 3 weeks. And I said, well, I think that like at least like, a few months, or until like your wife is in a better position to like, like when she doesn't need you anymore, or when she's feeling comfortable, like then you can go. And especially if you're in a financial position to do that, like I think that you should be able to prioritize like how your wife is, or literally the mother of your child is feeling. And he was just like kind of arguing for the sake of arguing. And I was like, hey, like, that I'm kind of like on the fence about having children, and this is one of those
Wait,
conversations
back
that
up
we've
for a
had
sec.
like many of.
Back up for a second.
Yeah.
What do you mean by you think he
Yeah.
was arguing for the sake of arguing? Why do you say that?
He does that like he does that like a lot, where like I'll say, hey, like I didn't think that this joke that you made about like women or something was that funny, and like can you
But
explain like why that is?
specifically to this
Oh yeah.
argument, I just mean like you
Yeah.
asked him a question about parental leave, right? And it sounds like that created some kind of disconnect between the two of you. And like,
Yeah.
and you mentioned like, was he joking? Like, I guess I want to stay on this.
I think that he was like, he wasn't joking in that situation. I think he was genuinely just being like, well, I don't really see the point of maybe doing the whole like longer parental leave. Like maybe he didn't understand his role. So I was like, hey, like let's have a conversation about it, right? Like
So
I was kind of like,
yeah,
hey, like yeah.
I mean, I'm nitpicking here, I guess, but yeah, I feel like you both played a role in that disconnect, right? Like, so, I get why you asked your
Yeah.
boyfriend. That makes sense. It's like, here's my boyfriend. You've been dating for 3.5 years. You guys know you're young, but, I'm sure for you, 24 feels old because you've never been 24 before, and relatively speaking, right? You asked him a question, what he thinks about a topic that he quite honestly doesn't even probably even have that strong of opinion. His answer was to give you what he knows best, kind of his role model, his hero is his dad. So his answer makes a lot of sense. I don't know. My dad did this, my dad's a pretty good dad. I feel like I had a good childhood, so that's what I would do. Times have changed. I also think, like, honestly, questions like those in the position that you two are in are like, honestly, like they're only going to create fights. You guys aren't family planning.
Yeah.
You don't even know if you want to have kids. Now, I understand to a certain level, these are types of questions that maybe you want to ask to see what kind of partner they are. And then everyone's situation, you don't know what position you guys will be in. Like I run a company,
So
I don't
true.
get vacation days or parental leave or things like that of a lot of people. Now, I pride myself in being a very attentive husband and father, but like, I didn't like leave. I didn't like leave work for a month. I did a lot of work leading up
Sure.
to try to like leave myself from
Yeah.
taking time off. I also have, I can come and go, I guess, on some level when I please, but like I was able to still get work done and still be there for my wife and baby early on. But it's not,
For sure.
so everyone's situation's different. I think what you're looking for is the reassurance that like you will have a partner that will sit down with you at whatever time you guys need to sit down and figure out what you two need for whatever those needs are, and that you feel comfortable and safe to say, hey, I need this right now. And then you're, I'm guessing, looking for, a response. It's like, at the end of the day, babe, I want to do what you need me to do.
Right.
You guys are getting into like a debate. And honestly, when I was 22, 23, 24, I got into a lot of those types of fights with my girlfriends at those times. And, but part of it is honestly is you guys, not to sound like you guys are, it's part of growing up. You guys are figuring things out. You're still at a relatively young age. Sometimes you kind of have to sometimes these arguments and discussions are kind of normal, to a certain extent.
No, and that's so true. Like I like completely hear you on that, and I think that that's like something that I've been really working on, or just like trying to facilitate more of those conversations, because you're so right. Like if I'm just like asking him a question that he has no idea about, it's the same thing. If you ask me a question about like sports I don't have a good answer for, it's like I'm not going to sound great, and I'm going to be honestly listening to him to like hear his perspective, maybe because I could learn something. And that's kind of like maybe how I felt like that conversation could have gone. But I mean, other things like if I am bringing up, well, like I don't know if you remember like the whole Gabby Petito situation. She like passed away. Like her like husband murdered her basically, and this was something that was happening during like the pandemic. And I remember talking to him about this, and it was like something that I was really interested in. And I was like, hey, there's so many like things that could have been changed in this process, and I think it's so like important to pay attention to current events and like these things that happen to women, because like you could prevent it. Like if you saw any of these things that happen, and he's like, you should really not be like reading into those things. You shouldn't be paying attention to those things. Like that, all that stuff is like scary, messing with your head. And I'm like, hey, like I think it's important to care about women, especially someone who's like passed away. And so like that is something that like things that I really do care about, or things that I'm like, hey, like let's have a conversation about this because I'm feeling it. He like likes to shut those down. And I think that that's like maybe where that like, oh, arguing for the sake of arguing, that feeling came from. You're right that maybe it wasn't that, but I definitely think that there is that energy a lot when we are having these conversations rather than like, just like listening to for the sake of listening.
Yeah. In that Gabby story, I guess if you could remember, like what kind of response were you hoping for? Like what would have been the
I
perfect
think I think that it was more like to listen and to hear and be like, oh my gosh, like that's like that is terrible, or oh my gosh, like that is crazy, or wow, I feel like there is like a lot of like kind of having a conversation about like these different parts that could have, gone better for her, being like, oh yeah, like wow, like we should be more aware of those things.
I do think it sounds like maybe I don't think you're deliberately trying to test him, but it does seem like sometimes you create up conversations that like it sounds like he maybe not know what to say or what type of what you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for, and then he doesn't give you the response that you want. Then you react to that, and then he's kind of trying to shut down the conversation. He's like, "What are we even talking about here?" And I feel again when I
So
was
true.
your age, I did have a lot of those debates and conversations. So I think part of it is, one, I think it's somewhat normal. I think you guys are both kind of learning, it's your early in dating. You're trying to this is kind of how you guys get to know each other, but your thoughts and feelings are going to evolve. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, I could see if I were to be able to like watch this conversation again, where I could see a world where I was like, hey, I could see maybe you shouldn't have said it that way, and then maybe I could have a note for him or whatever and things
Mhm.
like that. My guess is are both playing a role into these kind of arguments that really don't impact you guys all that much, it sounds like, directly.
No, I like hear what you're saying, and I definitely think that you're probably right about like the testing, because I do think that there is like a lot of like me not maybe feeling as like appreciated on the day to day, or just like in general maybe not feeling as loved, and so maybe it is kind of like me being like, hey, like in this conversation, something that I care about, like this is me showing you that I care about something. Like how are you responding? Because on the day to day, it's like maybe I don't feel as cared about or like as heard. However, I do think that like you're right in that I probably am like testing things more than I should. And I guess like I guess maybe a question to you is like, if you were to go back to when you were 24 and having these conversations with like your partners, how would you facilitate those conversations, or really like not like testing, but like how do you know, and how do you know if it's not just like we're so different that maybe this like won't work, or if it's like, or maybe we do care about each other, but how do we like cut the bullshit kind of and get to what really matters, and to
Well,
connect, because that's
what
really I think what I'm looking for is like
what
the connection, right?
what does I mean that's the thing. You got to ask yourself what does really matter to you. Nally and I, like we care about what's in front of us. We care about our daughter. We care about our connection. We care
Yeah.
about our families. Neither of us are very political. She can do what she wants, type of thing. And and I think we're
Right.
pretty aligned as well. But at the same time, I just like I just know as a young man, I cared about a lot of things that I don't give a fuck about now. It's like I have an opinion, and I think there's a difference. I think you
Yeah.
realize this, as you get older. There's a difference between having an opinion about something and caring about something. I can have
Mm,
opinion about anything,
right.
and I'm pretty good at having a strong opinion, and I can give a pretty like hot take about kind of anything. But caring,
So true.
keeping it with me,
Mm,
hanging onto it, needing to be right, wanting to have an argument with people, making sure people hear my point of view. I mean, like 95% of the things I quote unquote cared about, or more accurately wasted my energy on because I wanted to be
hmm.
right, or I felt like I needed to be heard. And, I don't give a fuck anymore because it really doesn't show up at my front door. And I don't mean to sound like selfish, right? But yeah, you get older, you care about your family, you care about what's really your day-to-day problems, your immediate concerns. Part of you kind of, as two, I say single, you're not, but like you two only really have yourselves to care about, and so when you're
Right.
young, you can have the benefit in the time to care about other things that really don't impact your life all that much. So I think part of it, like what sounds like a lot, what you are feeling and going through with your boyfriend is generally normal. I don't really have an answer for you whether it sounds like this is your guy or not. I will say in general, I think men as I know, are not as good as multitasking as women.
True.
And I think, even though society definitely accepts, and quite honestly, there are going to be more and more women in the workforce than men, just because women are being college educated at a much faster pace than men these days. That being said, I still think there's a natural need for men to figure their shit out before they can really be, focused on their relationships and things like that. I've always had the intent of being a great partner, but I think I am capable of being a much better partner now because I am not trying to figure out what I should be doing with my life, and now I spend a lot of my energy and time focused on work, but the motivation is for my family. And so even me going to work and working has a purpose that I didn't have. Like when I was younger, my purpose was like I was trying to make my dreams come true, and I didn't even know what my dreams were. And I was trying to make a certain amount of money because I thought I should. But I didn't really have a purpose or a focus or a goal. And that felt very unsettling for me. And so a lot of my energy went towards that. I always wanted to have a girlfriend. I often did have a girlfriend in my 20s, but and quite honestly, sometimes I felt like I spent too much energy focused on relationships where I maybe could have spent more energy focused on my career. And I think it is harder for people your guys' age to try to do both, honestly, especially this day and age. 30 years ago, you two would already be engaged or married, and you guys would kind of figure your shit out, right? But now we don't expect that of our 20-year-olds these days. Our 20-year-olds, we're telling them, all right, now that you graduate from college, now's your kind of time to travel and be selfish, try a couple different jobs, maybe in a couple different careers. And when you're 30, hopefully you have yourself figured out, whether it's your career or what you want to do with your family, and I think that's kind of the generalized societal expectation that we have. And so, and him coming from a wealthy, accomplished family, he probably has a little bit more pressure to do that as well, so there's that he's, facing and dealing with. Maybe the answer to your question is maybe you don't need to figure it out right now. You don't know if you want to have kids.
Yeah.
So like your biological clock maybe isn't as ticking as loud as maybe other women your age who are 100% certain, at the same time, I think your big concern is like, you don't want to, like, you want a boyfriend. You don't want a boy who's a friend kind of thing.
So true. Yeah.
But
or just a roommate or just
And on one end, you have to recognize that your boyfriend, it's his first relationship, and there is some training. On the flip side, you don't want to be his mom. So, there's no clear answer for you. Sorry, I don't feel I'm being all that helpful.
No.
Yeah.
I think that is helpful. And I think it's positive that like we've been able to manage to make it back for like 3 years and whatever, blah, blah. And I think that we like still have some of that like fight in us. I know that I do, but I think that like this moving across the country and doing all these things for someone is like kind of like it does feel like big things, right? And I just almost feel like for the big for the things that we have done together, and yes, we're still young, but it feels very like significant. It just feels like this should be someone that I am like willing to go to the end with. And it's almost like that those conflicting feelings of like we're doing all these big things, but I'm almost feeling like, whoa.
And I think you could find those moments where you could challenge him in a way that doesn't feel emasculating
like
or
testing,
condescending, but like the move is a perfect example. Like what you could have done is one up front been like, hey, I really need your help here. I'm moving like for you, quite honestly, across the country. So like, as you started looking, you could say, hey, I want you to be more involved in this. Can we do this together? So that could have been something you guys could have done together, shared that experience. He didn't do that and you didn't communicate that. So the second best option were for you to have been like, hey man, I was really bummed that we didn't do this together. And then this is where the quote unquote, like challenging him is like, listen, like I love that your dad is your role model. And I think it's great that you have someone like that to go to for advice, but like, I want to see you like step up for us and for me and be there for yourself and take the initiative and like, challenge him to grow up a little bit sometimes. You don't want to say grow up, but
Well, 100%. And I will say, like, adding on to the move, because so there was like me moving stuff into his studio apartment for like me going from my moving across the country into his studio apartment, me finding the apartment. And then there was the second move where he did come back here. And I scheduled like the movers. And at that point, I had that conversation with him saying, like, I really wish if you like that you had stepped up. Like, this was really hard for me. And he like acknowledged that I did put in a lot of work with that. But then when the movers came, and like I had scheduled that, he decided to like halfway through that process, he like was like, okay, I need to go to the gym and I need to like study for this like interview that he had coming up at the end of the week. Like, it wasn't super pressing and it was only one day. But again, it was kind of like I do want to say that like I appreciate how hardworking he is and I do appreciate like all of that. But at the same time, it is like that was a moment I think during the move where I was like, okay, you didn't have to go to the gym, and also you could have waited till like the next day to maybe prepare for this interview. And I mean, unfortunately he did not get the job. And it was more of like an info session or like an informational interview rather than like there was a job that he could have gotten. And so it just kind of like was like okay, this is losing a little like few points with me. So that was disappointing. But I do agree that there's like probably smaller things than that, like on the day to day, that it's like, hey, can you like step up and do this rather than waiting for these big things where there's like very high emotions. And obviously it's like both of our first times like moving in with someone. So like I get that it's tough to test someone in those high stress situations, but it definitely is also like telling, I guess, for me. Like if something really bad were to happen in the future, I immediately go to like the big things that we've like gone through together, and I'm like, did he step up for me? Not really. And I guess it's just like it is like setting expectations is important, yes. But I also think like if it was me, I wouldn't need the expectations. I just would want to do it.
He's not
And
you.
I like wouldn't have to be asked. I know, and he's not me.
Yeah.
But that's the tough thing. Like,
Well, it's not that tough. We just have to
yeah,
recognize that, I would do this isn't like a measuring stick. I mean, you can,
true.
you might have different love languages, you might have different personalities, you could be more extroverted or introverted than him, yada yada. Like,
Right.
you're different people.
Yeah.
You come from different family backgrounds. That's significant, especially in terms of like how you guys would handle yourself in different situations. I'm guessing you probably had to be a lot more independent a lot earlier in life than he ever had to, right? And
Right.
he's
Yeah.
a very privileged young man who, like, his parents decided to, like, paying for your 22-year-old son's groceries is definitely a choice. And it's a choice his parents are making.
Yeah.
And I guess if they can afford to pay for his groceries his whole life, true, but like, that's a choice. It's a choice that I don't think I'll be making for my daughter. I very much am grateful of the childhood I had. And that childhood included my parents, like, getting by. And I,
Right.
at a very early age, I understood that my parents would do their very best to get me what I needed, and they did a great job of that. But things I wanted, I had to get a job, even as a 8 or 9-year-old, to buy whatever it was. And so I understood the value of need versus want. Wouldn't shock me if your boyfriend struggles with that, because a lot of the things that he's wanted and needed, his parents have always kind of helped him out, and he's never, and that's and maybe his parents did a great job of teaching a work ethic in him. It sounds like he's a pretty motivated young man. It's like there's a lot of different good in parenting styles, but
right.
To oversimplify, like, there's a part of me when I'm hearing you talk, I hear someone who, like, quite honestly, you might be better matched with someone who is a little bit more further along in life in their maturity, specifically around relationships. That doesn't mean that you should break up with your boyfriend and go find a 30-year-old man.
Right.
It just means that, like, you might then need to recognize that and stop trying to have that type of relationship with the person you're with. You have to accept on some level that the person you're choosing to be in a relationship with is a little younger than you. It's his first relationship. So regardless of his age, he's inexperienced. And you have to stop trying to get him to play catch up, so to speak. And you have to accept where he is to a certain level, and you're going to have to find that balance between challenging him to step up, grow up, and mature versus accepting that you're dating a 22-year-old man who's fresh out of college, incredibly early in his career, may not be entirely sure what he wants to do with his career, and that's taking a lot of his emotional energy and time, and you might have to give up a little bit of expectations, I guess, and
Right.
in a way. It doesn't mean you should put up with bullshit or feel disrespected, but you're going to have to find that balance, so to speak, And the good news is, since you're not sure you want to have kids, like I said, it's not like you're like, hey, I want to have kids by the time I'm 26, which would have been a normal feeling,
Right.
and then I might say, hey, maybe this is not your guy, so I don't know.
No, and that's
Yeah.
true.
I
There's
don't know
like
if
no
there's a clear
pressure in
answer
figuring it
for
out
you.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I appreciate that. I think that it's like good to kind of take a step back and realize that like it doesn't need to be figured out right now. And while like being with someone for 3 years and moving across the country does seem significant, it's like there's still many more years before I'd ever want to like actually get married or think about having children seriously. So like it doesn't really matter. And I'm also, yeah.
My biggest thing for you is your boyfriend willing to adapt and grow as his partner? Or is he constantly resistant to evolving? How set in his ways is he? Is he willing to, from time to time, for various reasons, sit down with you and decide as a couple ways you guys want to grow as both individuals and as a couple? Does he go to you are you a confidant, or is it always his dad?
Yeah.
Are you growing that connection? I would focus more on that rather than like giving him that's a very like interview question. Give him a situation, ask him how you would respond. What would you do in this situation? It's like, oh fuck, man.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's true. I mean, I do think that like he respects his dad's or some other guy's like opinions maybe more than mine. But I do think he like comes to me with things. He might not like listen to that, but I think it's also just like
also depends on what the topic is, like
sure, yeah. I do think that there is like some willingness to like grow and learn, but he is very, very routine more than I am. And I do think that I like accommodate that so much more than he would accommodate what I want to do. But at the same time, I think I'm like way more confident in my like independence. But like that kind of almost like doesn't bring us together, right? Like if he's very kind of stuck in his ways and does his thing, but I'm also okay with just doing my own thing, like it kind of separates us. So I think that like moving forward for sure, I would love to figure out ways to like bridge that and connect more, because instead of us just doing everything that he wants to do or me just doing it by myself, like I'd love for us to do things that we could, compromise on and do together. So
who likes who more? Like, do you think he ever questions his relationship with you?
I mean, I feel this all the time and I'm very confused by it because I do think I care more. But I feel like I feel like he could like me. I mean, I don't know, Nick. I honestly feel like I don't know if he loves me as much as he could, but I also think I'm the only thing that he has to compare love to. So I'm sure he loves me more than not. I don't know.
Do you know? I mean, and
it's hard to say.
I know he wants to have kids someday, but do you know, not that his answers really matters, but like, is he someone who's like, yeah, I want to get married when I'm 30? Or is he like trying to get married soon?
Yeah, like that's
a long time away from him.
To be like right. Like I think he wants to be like a younger dad, but by 30 or something, or like whatever. Because our parents were older, but at the same time, like I think that there's so much that needs to happen before then. And I keep telling him too, like the reason why he has such a wonderful dad is because he also has a wonderful mom that was able to do everything at home while like his dad went out to work. And like the reason why he's had like such a good childhood is because he had two great parents that like were great support systems for each other and like understood that balance. And I think that like, his dad would not have been able to go to work as much as he did if he didn't have like an incredible mom holding down the house and things like that. And I'm never going to be someone who like would want to be a stay-at-home mom all the time. But I also like have a lot of my own like business ventures and things that I want to do independently. So I could like do some more of that. But I definitely think it's like when you're with a man, in my opinion, and you have a child, it's like that man is responsible for protecting your independence more than anyone else. And I think that's like what gives me some fear is like when I become a mother, like if I do someday, like my husband or the father of my child is like going to be the one who gets to protect my independence. And if he can't fight for that, I get a little bit nervous, but you're so right. Like we are so young and I don't think he's really thinking about that, but I like think about it a lot just because like I had to grow up very quickly and I was very independent. And I think that like gives me fear, but at the same time, it's like not pressing, like you said, and the biological clock, maybe with the right person, I would want to have kids, or maybe someday, like with maturity, he could be that person. But there's also adoption and there's also other options in the future as well. So
That is
I don't
something
think
you
it's like
want to make
pressing
sure
right
you're
now.
aligned on. I don't think it's that important right now, but and
Right.
you have a good relationship with his parents? How close are you with his mom?
His mom is tough. So we have like we've kind of gone back and forth. I think she's like the hardest person that I've like had to like win over. But like we've gotten dinner like a couple times and we've talked like sometimes and I'll like send her pictures from time to time, but like she definitely doesn't like treat me like a daughter or anything, but also like I don't have a great relationship with my mom. So like the whole like mother situation is like a little bit tough, and maybe it's like me not interacting with her all that well, but like I get along with all of his aunts and his dad really well and his sister. So like I've gone on family vacations with them at this point. So she likes me enough to allow me to go to those things.
In summary, I don't know. I'm not hearing me like, yeah, definitely break up with this guy or anything like that.
Good. Yeah.
I think rather than giving him situational questions that sound like almost like a test, maybe instead of asking him things that you guys could do as a couple to stay and be connected, or set goals for each other for your relationship and make sure they're reasonable.
I like that. That's good.
Whatever those goals are, as long as you guys are working towards something, and again,
I like that.
if you're both showing a willingness to grow together, that's a good sign for this relationship, especially with you guys both being young. If you're constantly butting heads at like some core differences that you have and neither are you willing to budge, maybe you're not as compatible as you want to be. And maybe it's just like, you're just different people, but you won't want to check in. You being his girl, there's definitely going to reach a point where he's going to question if you're, if there's other fish in the sea. There's definitely a possibility.
I'm looking forward to that. I'd like for him to like question that because I want to be like chosen for being me, not just because like I'm the only option, Like
Okay.
I would like.
Did you
for him
guys
to
date
choose
in
me
your
because
breakup?
It's me. No, I mean, no, we both really did not.
It's too bad.
And he focused a lot more on like, that's kind of what I thought too. I wish that he had.
Well, you seem to have
Like
a
I have
generally,
dated other people.
good outlook on it. I think maybe you might be overthinking a bit. And it sounds like some of the relationship problems you guys have are fairly normal for the stage in life that you guys are in. And if you're willing to be patient, then this could definitely work. If your patience runs thin and he's not showing you the progress that you want to see, or maybe your biological clock speeds up, so to speak, and you start, having greater relationship demands than he's capable of giving you, then you might have to reevaluate that. But it doesn't sound like,
No,
does that make sense? I know it's a little vague.
No, I think no. I think that makes like a lot of sense, and as like you say, it's vague, but I think it is helpful just to like slow it down. And I do feel like life feels like it moves quickly, right? But it's like there's so much that can happen even just in a year. And I think that like this first year of us living together, like I do want to see if we can get into a place where we're both really happy and working towards those goals. And I think that that's a good way to kind of have those conversations and set goals for each other. And by the end of this year, when our lease is up and if we renew it or not, like that can be a good kind of benchmark to see. Or next year, if we renew the lease, like give it some time, but before we move anywhere else, like really make sure that we're in a good place and we want to move forward together.
Well, thank you for the call.
No, I appreciate it.
Hopefully this was helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No,
and best of luck.
absolutely.
Yeah. Just
No, thank you so much.
keep checking in with each other. Try not to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
And just know he's still evolving as a man.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. All right.
All right, take
good.
care. All right,
Nick.
bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.